The Inglis House Home for Incurables remains, for now, a national treasure. Its story, 150 years in the making, is filled with remarkable characters, visionaries, heroines, scoundrels, and inspiring disabled men and women who flourish despite being the most vulnerable members of society. This tale depicts the very best qualities of human nature, our capacity for love, charity, and sacrifice. It's also a cautionary tale regarding the seductiveness of greed and the capacity to rationalize profound betrayal. The Inglis House mission, the fulfillment of the dying wish of 17-year-old Annie Inglis, is to provide a safe home for the severely disabled like herself. Young Annie's bequest in 1877 of a single gold coin was the catalyst that built a 300-bed skilled nursing facility. The Inglis family's altruism, inspired by Annie's plight, enabled the construction and staffing of the site we know today as the wheelchair community on Belmont Avenue. Commemorating the house's centennial in 1977 came acknowledgement of the philanthropic achievement of Annie's mother, Carolyn, her family, and their many loved ones. There is only one word with which to describe the history of Inglis House: women. Wonderful, tender, compassionate, self-sacrificing women who have given of their time, their energy, and money to care for thousands of unfortunates, wards of a society which seemingly had no place for them. In an era long before Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid, overcoming countless challenges, generations of women volunteers sustained Annie's dream by their diligent fundraising and frugal management of the Inglis family's charitable trust, an endowment intended solely to perpetuate the charitable mission of the home they'd created. By the 1980s, men had cracked the century-old English sisterhood to lend their expertise to the Inglis House Board of Directors. Acknowledging the risks posed by those who might corrupt the Inglis mission in order to profit from a robust charitable trust, an Inglis House treasurer at the time wrote, "In this vastly different type of organization, the propriety of our continued responsibility for the endowment fund must be re-examined. It does not take a great deal of imagination to foresee the kinds of problems which arise in the absence of strong moral leadership. A small coterie or clique somehow gain control and entrench itself. One must conclude that the responsibility for the Inglis endowment under these circumstances might be subject to considerable hazard. Corporate attorneys, real estate developers, construction financiers, and investment analysts without backgrounds in healthcare or prior advocacy for the disabled gradually assumed prominent roles in leadership. In 1984, they formed the Inglis Foundation, intended to shelter the endowment from risk. The foundation's board changed its bylaws and began a decades-long campaign of real estate acquisitions, low-income housing projects, and the repurposing of endowment funds to private sector startups. Following a scandal that ousted both its chief executive and financial officers in 2005, an interim CEO appointed by the foundation signed off on a reorganization known as the merger. By 2011, the foundation sought court approval to redirect endowment funds to its housing corporation and community services projects, arguing that Medicaid reimbursements were sufficient to sustain the Inglis House nursing home on Belmont Avenue. The court agreed. It must be noted that despite its zero staff, zero budget assurances made to the Orphans Court of Philadelphia, the Inglis Foundation's tax filings for 2021 reported 166 full-time employees, net assets of $266 million. The Inglis Foundation is, today, the entrenched clique that the Inglis House treasurer had so presciently warned of decades earlier. Smiling, engaged Inglis House residents remain useful as optics for fundraising, but by early 2020, the Foundation's chair was committed to closing Inglis House in order to focus on private sector partnerships and a portfolio of rental properties. In March 2020, as COVID loomed, the Foundation Board voted on a motion to shutter Inglis House and transfer residents elsewhere. That motion failed by a single vote. Undeterred, by summer 2022, the Foundation quietly consummated a sale agreement with the private equity firm Trico Partners, who plan to convert the Belmont Avenue campus to a rehab center. When news of the sale leaked, Inglis House residents organized a protest and eventually found an attorney to file an objection with the Orphans Court on their behalf. Responding to their objection, the Foundation's legal counsel wrote, "The Inglis Foundation is under no obligation whatsoever to own or operate a skilled nursing facility." End quote. That brief, repugnant sentence summarizes the sentiments of those now entrusted with the Inglis family's philanthropic legacy and threatens the lives of all Inglis House residents today. Thankfully, increased Medicaid reimbursement rates in 2023, combined with negative press coverage, allowed the sale agreement petition to be quietly withdrawn from the court's docket. For now. For anyone with a loved one living at Inglis House, this is a stay of execution, not a reprieve. The Foundation's board has worked methodically for 20 years to rebrand its mission and has no plan for sustaining the noble legacy of expert nursing care at Inglis House. Whether it's the onset of MS in midlife, cerebral palsy at birth, or quadriplegia from traumatic injury, any one of us, at any time, can require the compassionate care that Annie Inglis and her family bequeathed. The residents of Inglis House live on borrowed time. The Foundation lacks the perspective forged by a family's commitment to a loved one with a catastrophic disability. No matter the era, there remain discernible truths, rights, and wrongs that we can all agree upon. Abandoning this place and the vulnerable people within it to the vagaries of life under the care of a profit-driven private equity firm is wrong. Please get involved, raise awareness of this betrayal of Annie's legacy. Be righteously angry at the irreparable harm the loss of Inglis House will cause to so many who've already endured so much. A family's love built this revolutionary wheelchair community. Only the tenacity of a family's love can save it. Act to honor Annie's dream for those we love today and for all those who will inevitably come after us. Speak up for the fragile souls who cannot.